Welcome to Jon S Sports channel where we do everything Championship, League One and running, and today it's our Week 12 review. We're going to look at our score predictions from Week 12 last week and we're going to go through them when we're going to go straight in with Shrewsbury versus Exeter. That was the one a little bit earlier on the Thursday the 17th of October, and we're going to have a quick look at that for you. So here we go. So Shrewsbury have been starting to play really well, and Exeter in 7th were certainly the favourites amongst most of you, but I could see what some of you were saying about Shrewsbury actually starting to play quite well, and they were at home. So I went with a smaller group of you. I went with Shrewsbury 3, Exeter 1, and it was actually Shrewsbury 0, Exeter 2. And the game was really a game of two halves. Very scrappy affair, I thought, all the way through. But during the first half, Shrewsbury had some really cracking chances. And even the Kamari Doyle goal on 9 minutes, it was just a scrappy affair where it was a mix-up and a bad defensive error, and it was in the net before you knew it. In the second half, though, it was completely turned around and we started to see some more moments of excellence, and this time from Exeter City. And Exeter suddenly started to turn up, and they deserved their win in the end, because I thought that the majority of the excellent play was in the second half when Exeter suddenly started to play some really cracking moves in the attacking third there. So we didn't get a good result there, but the actual result was Shrewsbury 0, Exeter 2. So we now go on to Reading versus Crawley. So it was Reading 17th against Crawley 22nd, and there were a lot of different feelings here, but mostly it was positive for Reading. And were we going to call a Reading win? Yeah, we decided to go with 2-1 to Reading. Reading have been playing really, really well. I don't think their 17th position really shows how well they've been playing. And it's surprising with what's going on off field that they should be so good on field. And they have been. And they were at home, and I couldn't see any way of stopping them. A Crawley side that had been playing well right at the start. I liked their style. I liked their class. I liked the way they were playing. And I could see them getting a goal. I could see them possibly even scraping a draw, but in the end we went for Reading 2, Crawley 1, and it was Reading 4, Crawley 1. And I must say, the Reading goalkeeper played absolute blinders, didn't he? In the second half, I would say that was mainly Crawley, and Crawley's attack were absolutely lethal. But why did they only score one? Well, you just have to go and see Button, don't you? Because Button made it wasn't only Button, it was defenders clearing off the line, Button clearing off the line. It was just absolute mayhem. How on earth Crawley didn't get more, I haven't a clue. But Reading managed to win this one convincingly. But it wasn't just a one-man show. I couldn't give you a man of the match from the Reading perspective, because the defenders played absolute blinders. The goalkeeper Button played absolute blinders. The attacking force was brilliant. The midfield was brilliant. I can't pick one of you, and I'm sure that the Reading fans would be probably thinking the same thing. So we ended up with 4-1 to Reading. We said 2-1. It was a correct result, so I'll take a tick for that one, and we'll move on to the next one, which is Wycombe versus Peterborough. So the Wycombe game, and Wycombe versus Peterborough, it was actually quite even, and although we didn't get any cracking goals like the Lewis Wing one for Reading, that was absolutely scorcher, wasn't it? I failed to mention that one. It was actually really even. It was indeed Wycombe 3, Peterborough 1. What can you say? But we expected a ding-dong of a battle, and it was. I think 3-1 wasn't really fair, although, you know, they put the ball in the net 3 times. I think on balance of play, it probably a 2-1 scoreline would have been more apt, or a 3-2 probably. But in fact, I think Peterborough did do really, really well. I don't think the sending off really made a great deal of difference, and I think that was one for the neutrals. The one for the neutrals. Watching that was really exciting. It was end to end. There wasn't one team always in it, I don't think, and I enjoyed it. What did we say? We said I actually played my joker. Everybody else was saying it was going to be a Wickham win. It's going to be a Wickham win. At best, it would be a Peterborough draw. I played my joker. I said Wickham 2, Peterborough 3. It was actually the other way around. It was Wickham 3, Peterborough 1. So I didn't play my joker very well there, did I? But you lot did. Well done to all those that said it was going to be a Wickham win. And who's next on the doors? It's going to be Blackpool versus Barnsley. So what did we say? I went with one or two of you thinking that Barnsley would perhaps have a tough time here. Blackpool have been doing really, really well. Barnsley have been stuttering a little bit. Most of you really starting to think that this Blackpool train is going to continue. So I went with most of you. I said 2-1 to Blackpool, and I put a little brackets in here saying, reminding myself that I actually said that it could easily be one of those draws that Barnsley pull out of the bag every so often with a late goal. Wow. It was a late goal, wasn't it? It was. I've had to go to the stats here because I think that it's really important to say these. Blackpool actually had 55% of possession, 18 shots, 5 on target, 1 goal, and I think most people would think for that's about right for shots on target against goals, but I think if you're going to get 18 shots at target, you really need to be getting a couple more shots of those on target, and just to get one and have such a massive more shots. I mean, 18 total shots for Blackpool, just 10 for Barnsley, and of those 10, only 2 were on target, and they scored 2 goals. Barnsley's goals are really good, and then I have to look at the Casey goal, and it was just a total mix-up in the defence. I don't know what the goalie was thinking he was doing, or the back line were thinking they were doing. They just seemed to stand still and say, well, we'll go and take a pot shot, and we'll let it bounce in slowly. So Barnsley, for me, did do enough to win it. They deserved to win it. Blackpool, there was a lot of effort there, and I must say for the Blackpool fans, the effort that the players put in was absolutely visible. Absolutely. I think that they were just outshone by a Barnsley team that wanted it more because they've been seen to be doing a little bit less brilliant in the last few games, but Barnsley managed to turn over less shots, less chances of shooting into a win, and more on them. They just managed to control the game enough to win it, but they look good value for their win. So what did we all say? We said Blackpool 2, Barnsley 1. It was Blackpool 1, Barnsley 2. Completely the opposite way round. Did any of you get it right? I didn't actually get anybody getting that one right. So well done to anybody who thought that Barnsley would win. I think there was one or two. And we move on to the next one. So we move on to Bolton versus Burton. Bolton versus Burton, we expected this to be a whitewash, really, and most people expected it to be a whitewash. Bolton at home, great crowd. They've been playing well. They've been showing that they can score goals, though not always. And against a Burton side that really needed a win desperately in 23rd. And we said 4-1, Burton to lose to Bolton 4-1. It was actually Bolton 2, Burton 1, and it wasn't such an overriding win for Bolton as we thought. Most of you uh, thought it would be a little bit more than that. There was one or two people who got that spot on, so well done those people who got that result spot on. It was indeed Bolton 2, Burton 1. Bolton ran this from the off, I think, and they really did control the game. 18 shots, 55% possession, 5 on target, 2 goals. You know, they're all pretty decent. You would expect perhaps if they want to be in the top 6, one or two more on target. But overall, they played well. They controlled the game well. Not an awful lot in it, I would say. Burton did turn up and they did play some good football. 8 shots up from their 45% possession, so they weren't outplayed, and they didn't. It wasn't one of those games where Burton come away with 20% possession. They got 45% possession, and they scored. They shot 8 times, and 3 of them were on target, and they scored one of them. I'd say this was a typical League One game. It was good. It was sort of semi-entertaining. Um, I think Bolton really did look like they were going to score more than that, but on the day they didn't. Bolton 2, Burton 1. I'll claim the right result. I said Bolton 4, Burton 1, and it was Bolton 2, Burton 1. So we'll call it a day on that one, and we'll move on to the Cambridge Wigan game. So Cambridge 2, Wigan 0. We thought that 17 clean sheets for Wigan would continue, didn't we? And an awful lot of you did. However, there were the odd. I did see the odd one that said it was going to be 1-0 to Cambridge. Very well done. Who thought that? Because indeed it was Cambridge 2, Wigan 0. And Cambridge only had 33% possession. It's another one where you have to look at the stats, because Wigan did have the ball more twice as often, and they did do some pretty decent football, and it was quite classy and quite enjoyable. But they just didn't have that final. There was nothing at the end. There was no clinical drive at the end. It was almost like when it gets into the box, it was little bit. Cambridge were just so entrenched there. There's so many Cambridge players that it was almost like it was going to be a ping pong goal if it was going to go in the net. Were Cambridge good for their win? They absolutely, absolutely. They actually played really well, and I actually enjoyed their play. That was 100 times better than the Cambridge Rotherham game. Absolutely. A bit of a Tickle a nightmare, wasn't it, on 22? Sam Tickle scoring an own goal, but he's usually quite good. You could see the annoyance on his face. I think all in all, 13 shots to Cambridge, 4 on target, 2 goals, pretty good actually for where they are in the league. And Wigan, 67% possession, only 9 shots at target, and only 3 of those on target. Which I suppose is actually not too bad. I say only, it's actually quite good as a percentage of 9. Obviously 0 in the net. So I think on the whole, that was a good win. Did Cambridge deserve it? Absolutely. Did that ruin my number of good results? Absolutely. I said Wigan 1-0 to win Cambridge, and it was Cambridge winning 2-0. We'll forget about that and we'll move on to the Charlton Stockport, shall we? Because that's a better result for me. Now, the stats for the Charlton Stockport game, I have to go to them because they're the same as the last one. Charlton 63% possession, 14 shots at target, really good. 6 on target of those 14, which is excellent, and only 1 goal, which is a little disappointing, to be honest. 37% possession for Stockport County, 8 shots at target, which is actually quite good for 37%, and 2 on target of those 8. Yeah, that's probably about right for where they are. That's anywhere from sort of mid to the upper third. I didn't see the Charlton that I've seen at the beginning of the season. Was it a fair result? I think it was actually a fair result. I think that Stockport County played really well. I think their new style of play is working really well, and it's catching a few people out, a few teams out that expect the style not to be too different from last year, and it is. But Charlton just weren't clinical enough, and you know, for where they are, they should be, really a lot more clinical up front. The surprise here was how much they controlled the game, because you've got to remember, before this game, Charlton were in 8th, Stockport were in 6th. You would have expected it to be a tight game indeed. I went with a lot of you saying that it was going to be a draw. I went Charlton 1, Stockport 1, and guess what? It was Charlton 1, Stockport 1. Correct result, correct score. Get in there. I have to have one occasionally. Both teams have had a great defensive record of late, and I didn't see a great deal of goals in it, but I think there was the chance there. If Charlton could have been just a little bit more clinical like they were in the first few games, I think they could have won that one. But on the day, Charlton won, Stockport won, and we move on to Huddersfield versus Bristol Rovers. Now, Huddersfield, well, they've been playing not so great of late, and yet they've suddenly turned it around from that game. That game was all Huddersfield. And 58% possession, 16 shots at target, 10 on target, 3 of those in the net. And the reason why they played so well, and the reason why I'm going back to the stats of the last few, is that Bristol Rovers, 42% possession, but only 3 shots at target, only 1 on target, and that went in the net. They all of a sudden have managed to make that defence absolutely amazing. Is it because Bristol Rovers are inconsistent? I did say, will Bristol Rovers turn up? On the day, I don't think they did. That back line just seemed to be absent without leave on several occasions, and I'm surprised it was only 3-1, to be quite honest. So what did we say? We said Huddersfield 2, Bristol Rovers 0. One or two of you thinking it could have been a draw, but it was Huddersfield 3, Bristol Rovers 1. So we got the right result there, guys, and I'll take a tick from that one. And we move on to our next one, which is Lincoln City versus Birmingham. Let's see how we did there. Now, we expected Birmingham to win this one, didn't we? There was one or two people that thought Lincoln could learn from the past games and try and overcome this. And they did start really well with that really good goal in 1 minute. And Kadamatra did really well. But after that, as soon as they'd got that goal, Lincoln City gave them far too much respect. And if you look at the game replay, you've got so much space that they're giving Birmingham. This is a class side. There are players in that worth more than the Rotherham entire team. It's ridiculous. You can't afford to give Birmingham the space and the time that Lincoln City gave them. Birmingham ended up with 75% possession, but more on Lincoln. They managed to reduce Birmingham to just 7 shots in the entire game, which is absolutely amazing. On target 4, goals 3. Now, they gave them far too much space on the entire pitch until they got into the final third. And they suddenly realised that actually this is actually working. What they should have been doing is doing it through the entire game and through the entire pitch. It was a fair score. Lincoln City 1, Birmingham City 3. They should have given them less respect, less space, less time on the ball, but they didn't. What did we say? Well, we actually got the correct score and correct result here, guys. We said Lincoln City 1, Birmingham City 3. I went with a lot of you, most of you, that were saying Birmingham would win this one. Um, and I'll collect 2 stars for that one, please. And we'll move on to Mansfield versus Stevenage next. So Mansfield Stevenage, I think it was a game of two halves. Stevenage started the brighter and went 1-0 up through Jake Young, and I think it was a bit of a scrappy affair, to be quite honest. No real class or sting in the tail. There was nothing really to call this a really good, entertaining game. In the second half, it brightened up a little bit when Mansfield tried to fight back and tried to get back in the game, and there was some moments of attempted real class. Swiveling on one foot round and trying to nick it in the far corner, which is great skill, but it wasn't executed very well. But at least they had attempts at playing really classy football, Mansfield. My team to watch, Mansfield. Well, what did we say? We said it was going to be a 2-0 Mansfield. So Mansfield 2, Stevenage 0. Everybody saying it was going to be Mansfield third in the table to beat Stevenage in 13th, and it was wrong. It was actually Mansfield 0, Stevenage 1. Very few shots on target. I think it was 9 in the entire game. Not one for the neutral, I'm afraid, this one. Better off just moving on, I think. So we go Northampton, Leyton Orient, and this was tame. I didn't find anything of interest in this game. I thought Leyton Orient, they had more of the possession, 64% possession. They only managed 5 shots from that, and only one of those on target. Obviously they scored 0, and in a tame game like that, you really need to be able to stamp your authority. If you're going to have 60% possession, you need to be using that ball absolutely to its max, and Leyton Orient just didn't do it for me. Watching the replay, I found it quite a almost tedious game. Sorry about that, I just did. It's like watching a Rotherham game at the beginning of the season. Northampton, 36% possession, 7 shots, 1 on target, 1 goal. I mean, and even that was a scrappy affair. I think 0-0 ball draw would have been would have probably been the score I would have given this had I been watching that and not known the score at the end of the day. I would have said that's probably would have been a 0-0, isn't it? Instead, what did we say? We said Northampton 1, Leyton Orient 0. We thought Northampton in 20th just had the edge over Leyton Orient in 19th. If anybody was going to win this one, I thought that Northampton had the home advantage and the crowd behind them just enough to drive that across the finishing line. We were spot on. We got the correct result. We got the correct score, 1-0. I'll accept the 2 stars. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to my team, Rotherham United, if we have to. Well, Rotherham Wrexham, what can I say? I think the best way of putting this is actually in the stats, because this was just a game of absolute dross with nobody having any finishing power whatsoever, no technical ability in the final third. Just look at it, 66% possession to Rotherham United, and they did absolutely nothing with it. 17 shots at target, 6 of those on target, no goals, and the ones that were on target were drowned out by the sheer numbers of Wrexham players in the box. There was never any doubt that Rotherham were never going to score. Well taken goal by Mullin, absolutely. But then after that, 34% possession to Wrexham, 12 shots from that. That is absolutely amazing from that possession, from that number. And they haven't been getting that from what I can remember. 7 of those on target and 1 goal. you know, they did what they had to do, and then they pulled back and just let Rotherham attack them because we're not very good in the final third, and we showed it. What did we say? We said 1-1. I really did think that Rotherham might actually turn up today, on that day, but in the end, Rotherham didn't turn up. I don't think we played that well. And a lot of Rotherham fans think we outplayed them, and that Wickham were not very good at all. In fact, they're saying they were dreadful. I think that Wickham were dreadful, but I think Rotherham were equally as awful. And the substitutions that we made in the second half were just, hey, what, why, who? You know, odd substitutions, not very well planned, not a very good game. Um, this could have been somebody sort of 18th versus 19th in the league. It was 15th versus second. We said Rotherham 1, Wickham 1. It was Rotherham 0, Wickham 1. And we move on and say thank you for watching Jon S Sports channel. We'll be back again with another watch along and another set of predictions and reviews. Please do like and subscribe.